We are 22S Radio. 22S Radio is 22smedia.com and 80.1 FM, KKJZ HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and now our World Broadcasting Tag Team Champions of the World and our Cruiserweight Champion.
I'm Ethan.
I'm James.
I'm Rob.
And this episode 190 of Beyond the Ropes, we are BTR Pro Wrestling Talk. Of course, I'm your host, Ethan. You can find me on Twitter at EthanME95. You can find James, the analyst, on Twitter at
JHW Reporter.
And you can follow producer Rob Flores at
Rob Flores Media. And don't forget the R-Truth DMs for Ethan.
Oh, that truth. He got ordained as a minister. He's officially an ordained minister. I still haven't watched this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, so I have to do some catching up on that. I mean, what?
You said what for Raw?
I haven't watched this week's episode of Raw. I'm a little behind. Behind on my wrestling. But James, what do you want to talk about this week?
Actually, I mean, I don't blame you. Just because there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of hours of content that we watched over the last week or so.
WrestleMania was happening, the Hall of Fame. I mean, yeah, it's been a lot of content for sure.
I mean, there's a lot of different things we can get into. Let's start off with what you got there in the background. Obviously, a big story coming out of WrestleMania. I mean, it was talked about going into WrestleMania. It did become official, obviously, when Cody Rhodes does make his way down to the ring. We did talk about it a little bit last week, but obviously with Raw, hopefully I'm not spoiling anything for you here. If not, maybe you'd be.
I'm
going to tell you anyways.
I saw the opening.
Hear about it.
I saw the opening segment. Saw the opening segment. I know about the match. I haven't watched it, but I saw the opening segment. So go ahead.
But do you know what's happening after? You know that you know where?
I know where they're going.
Okay, yes. Cool. So yeah, just your thoughts. Obviously, it kind of doesn't come as a surprise where they're going.
Hold on. Sorry. Hold on.
Oh, God.
I forgot to acknowledge my tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Continue. Go ahead.
No, well, you just pushed old Roman to the side there. You come up here, you act like you have nothing to talk about. You don't, you have Cody Rhodes in your background.
I've been busy. It's been a busy week for me. So
busy that you forgot the tribal chief, and you're flying the colors of another guy who just comes in the door.
I forgot we were recording the show until you texted me yesterday. I was like, oh my God, I forgot we have to record.
Fair enough. The week did go by fast again, just with everything WrestleMania. Yeah. But yeah, going back to Cody Rhodes, I mean, so obviously it looks like they're going for part 2. Rollins called it such by throwing out that challenge there. I believe it was that after the Miz match with Cody. And obviously, Miz is not a bad opponent to have, for your return match on Raw. And I'm kind of curious where they go with the Miz too. Obviously, I mean, it was kind of obvious. I felt that Cody Rhodes and Rollins, they were going to kind of continue that series there of matches and tell that story. Obviously, with Seth Rollins being one of the star pupils there for Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes being the father of Cody Rhodes. So, there's still a lot left there that they can get to. Obviously, there really wasn't any build up to the match. They just kind of had the match because Cody Rhodes makes his return on WrestleMania. So now they actually have the opportunity to tell a story and build a story based on what happened in that match with the return and everything else for Cody. But yeah, just your thoughts on that. And then any predictions or anything as far as where you go with the Miz from here?
Regarding the Seth and Cody feud, I kind of figured that would happen. It's a big high-profile feud. Don't want to just do one and done. Go ahead.
Does Rollins have to win the next match?
Depends where they're going to go with Cody. If they're looking to put him in the title picture pretty soon, we're going to talk about a big event that's happening later this year in September that was just recently announced. We'll talk about that in a bit. But if they're looking to build him up as a championship contender in the next few months, I mean, he could lose. It's Seth Rollins. He could.
I think he could. But in order for it to be any sort of series or like
if they do a third, and Seth maybe sneaks one out, and
because it's
you get Cody's first loss out of the way, basically.
Right.
which isn't a bad thing. But he
And it
obviously they
doesn't.
have to go over again.
And they don't have to pin him on the mat 1, 2, 3, right? It could
No.
be there could be some other kind of cheating something,
Sure.
but and I think too with Cody, it's kind of like he's not gonna go on a Goldberg run, right? It's not like he's going to go undefeated, so he's gonna have some losses along the way before he even gets into the title picture. So,
Maybe.
in what? So that match is WrestleMania Backlash.
That's
Is that what we're
WrestleMania
going
Backlash.
with?
Say it with me, James. Premium live
event.
There you go. Had to get that. I don't think we kind of got
Yeah,
it
we
in
did.
last week.
We
But
got it in
it felt a little shoehorn. See, we got it in right this time. Get back to shoehorn. So yeah, I look forward to that. I thought, their match was my favorite match of the entire WrestleMania card. So I look forward to seeing what they do. I'm sure they'll change things up. They're two great in-ring storytellers.
And we're off the top of your head, sorry to interrupt you. Where were they at? I'm trying to remember in terms of where was Cody when he was leaving and Seth kind of being there? Did
Seth
they cross
was
paths
in the
a lot?
Shield, I believe.
Was he still kind of on the Shield? Like they didn't really have a lot of interaction. I'm trying to think. Did they really have any matches or chemistry before? Like
they were in that Rhodes family Shield feud.
They did have
authority. That
They
authority angle.
did. Okay.
So Cody has actually pinned Seth Rollins before. I remember seeing that going around when he returned last week or so. But yeah, they have squared off, just not in singles competition as far as I'm concerned.
Right,
so
which would make
might have been the first one.
Which I think would kind of make sense. Anything else? Even if Miz, it's just kind of where they're going off with WrestleMania, or do you want to go on the Miz real quick?
Yeah, real quick, because since you asked me.
Yeah.
Miz can be put anywhere. I don't know where he lies at the moment. That Cody thing, I mean, that could have been a feud if they wanted. Obviously, it was kind of a one-night thing.
They can always go back to it.
They could always go back to it. I don't know what Logan Paul's schedule is like. It doesn't seem like, at least at the moment, he's going to be showing up back anytime soon. But, maybe SummerSlam or something, or maybe if they're looking to sell even more, or pick even more interest over there in the UK, which, again, we'll mention right now. They got a huge stadium show. But I don't know. I mean, Miz right now, kind of in limbo. But I really I liked what we got from Miz TV with him and Cody, kind of going back and forth. He was correcting Cody on the dialogue that he's saying wrestler. He said corrected him with superstars. Cody said belt. He said championship title. Very right. I'm sure that was done on purpose, but I thought that was interesting there. That they did that. So I don't know. Miz is good at escalating some feuds.
Yeah. I don't think he'll have any problem kind of finding a feud. That's for sure. And I think obviously, you're working some new guys in, you're working some new angles, so you can kind of plug and play Miz anywhere. And I think, maybe he doesn't necessarily need anything at the moment, but he'll find something fairly quickly. We'll talk about some guys that got together. We kind of talked about it again during our WrestleMania episode. We'll get back to that in a little bit. So that's a little bit of a teaser there. But something that I thought was pretty cool, something I actually got around to watching yesterday, was Randy Orton. And Randy Orton had he was on the Pat McAfee show. I don't know if you caught some of that, but I found some of that to be interesting. Did you happen to watch that at all?
I did not watch it, but I heard he was on, yeah.
Yeah, he was on there pretty good, about 30 minutes. He opened the radio interview with Pat McAfee talking about a bowel movement. And the reason why I bring that up is just because Randy Orton, Pat McAfee complimented Randy Orton saying he was looking great considering his age. I forgot what he said. I think Randy Orton turned 42 like the week of WrestleMania or something like that. But
April 1st or something, his birthday.
Yeah, so he's they talked a lot about his history and the thing, some of the stuff we probably talked about before in terms of how he's grown as a leader and maturity over time. And, the thing that always kind of interests me about Randy with this current run is, he was a guy who was in the championship picture, like I felt like a year or two ago or whatever. And, kind of not doing anything. And it's not like he's old, hanging on, like he's broken down and they're trying to just keep him as a name. He can still go. And so I just kind of thought it was interesting that he was really kind of put in the tag team scene, because I really can't remember him being in the tag team scene too much other than the stuff with Evolution and then what Edge and Orton. Other than that, I mean, he's kind of been a solo guy. He said he likes being a solo guy. But it sounds like he's having a lot of fun on this run. And I'm kind of curious what you think of where they go from here, because obviously they did retain their titles at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's having fun. I haven't seen Randy smile in probably so much in the last year. Probably the last year he smiled more than, the previous 20 years of his career. So, I mean, he seems like he's having fun with Riddle. There was speculation they were splitting them up soon to face off at WrestleMania. Obviously, they went against that, which is probably the smart thing because they're one of the most popular acts right now in the company. So yeah, it's not surprising.
It was kind of interesting though too, like you mentioned 20 years ago, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit when I thought about it. Because they mentioned it too, like, how long have you kind of been doing this thing now? And I was like, he said, like, did you say on TV for 20 years?
Yeah, he's been there for 20 years.
And that's just crazy to me, but I guess it's been that long. Anyways, yeah, no, just what Orton the run he's had, and Pat McAfee was not shy about saying that there's without a doubt he'll be in the Randy Orton will be in the Hall of Fame one day. Obviously, no disagreements there. And again, I found it interesting that Randy Orton said he's having a lot more fun at this stage of his career, especially with a guy like Riddle who kind of, as Randy put it, kind of gets it and knows how to sell, knows how to kind of get the crowd into it and whatnot. And he said, Randy had said there had been several years where he was just kind of phoning it in. And when without being cocky, and a lot of people can say Randy is pretty cocky, but when you're so good that you know how to do just enough to make the fans happy and not really have to do much. And Randy said, that was the kind of danger. That's kind of where you're in danger, when you're able to just kind of phone it in and do just enough and know how to do it well. Right. So I think he said this time around, and he kind of credited Edge in the match that they had at WrestleMania and the run that they kind of had during the pandemic together, where he kind of again gave Edge credit, saying, Orton had worked with so many of the young guys and stuff, and some of them just didn't have that old school mentality that guys like Orton and Edge were used to. That way, when an Edge comes back, it's not so much of having a teacher bring guys along, which Orton at this point in his career doesn't have a problem doing, but just kind of being able to work with Edge and know that he can give his body to Edge, and Edge is gonna respect and take care of him in the same manner that Randy will for Edge. And I think that kind of lit the spark back up for a guy like Randy and kind of fueled his fire there a little bit. Now you pair him with a guy like Riddle, who's a firecracker and can bounce off the walls and whatnot. And Randy admitted that he didn't get or care for Riddle much when he first saw him in the locker room, but much like he said with Dean Ambrose, in the same respect, that took him a little while to kind of figure out that's just who he is, and that he's some dudes are just weird, right? But Riddle's kind of grown on Randy, and I think we've seen a lot of that just in the storytelling of those guys, because I remember like the first few weeks they were paired together, it was just kind of like, what are we doing here? What is this tag team? And Orton wasn't kind of feeling it, but they really kind of come a long way. And like you said, they could have broken them up and made something of it at WrestleMania and called it a day, but they're going on a pretty significant run here. And the fact that Orton is having fun doing it, I think says a lot. But I also don't think we're done seeing him in the world title picture again at some point.
No, absolutely not. So, yeah, I think we will see him in a title picture. I believe he stated, he originally wanted to retire after his most recent contract, but I believe he said now 50.
Yeah, and that's weird that you said, because I had heard it before, but he made it very clear, like, no, he wants to go till he's like 50. He wants to go another 10 years.
Yeah.
He said he's never considered going anywhere else, even though there was like some rumors that in which he said he never said anything, but other people were trying to peg him going somewhere else. And he said when the contract ends, he's going to sign again. Like WWE's it. There's no doubt about it. And that he wants to see himself potentially in that kind of an Undertaker role, just in respect to or regarding doing the WrestleMania, doing the SummerSlam, doing the Royal Rumble, doing those big matches. So it's like, and Randy Orton even kind of said, hey, you've been in the movies, and I guess he said he still kind of auditions for things every now and then, but it wasn't his cup of tea, and it wasn't his choice to do the Marine. Is that the one he ended up doing? Did he do one of the Marines?
He did 12 rounds,
or he did 12 rounds or something,
Sequel.
And it was just kind of like, hey, you're hurt, let's do this, and he's like, okay, but Randy Orton said like he's a lifer, like he's not really going anywhere. There's not like if a movie comes along, maybe, but he even said don't watch any of the current stuff he's done, like anything he's done on film in the past, like don't bother with it. But I just thought it was interesting and to see where Randy Orton's at in his career and how invested and how passionate he is about wrestling, especially at this point in his career.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll save it after the break, I guess. But a huge stadium show is coming, not to us. I mean, we're getting one next year.
We're getting one where it's going to be 2 days long, actually, and they did give out the dates on that, so we'll make sure to mention that as well, because those dates, I think they were just put out during WrestleMania for the LA show, so we'll get those dates in as well after the break. Anything else on your mind before we go to the break here in about a minute or so?
Yes, very soon we'll be talking about a couple of debuts that happened this past Friday on SmackDown.
And even before that, like at AEW, that I don't even think we got to.
No, we got some of those. We got a lot of new faces that are coming. I don't know as good as Veer. He came all over Raw.
I think I know who Rob's favorite wrestler is. I'll leave it at that because where was Rey Mysterio? That's what I wanted to know.
Wasn't he supposed to wrestle?
Or maybe that's what happened. But Dominic is may not be around for very long. Like that man has a family. When
we return, we'll talk about all the big debuts that have been happening over the last couple of weeks, right here on episode 190 of Beyond the Ropes. We are 22us Radio. 22us Radio is 22usmedia.com and 88.1 FM, KKJZ HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome back to episode 190 of Beyond the Ropes. We are BTR Pro Wrestling Talk. You can also find us over there on Anchor. Go ahead and find us, search up Beyond the Ropes, and you'll be able to listen to our beautiful voices. You can find us on Twitter at RealBTR Radio, as well as Facebook.com/Beyond the Ropes. Before the break, we were talking about a pretty big announcement that occurred a couple days ago. For us, as we're recording this around 24 hours ago, WWE returning to the UK for the first time, or at least for a pay-per-view in a stadium in 30 years, which is insane to think about.
Crazy that they would have gone to Saudi Arabia and everywhere else first before returning to the UK, right?
Very, very interesting. Let me look up the actual event.
Makes me wonder what they had to do to get that. Like to, Saudi. I think Saudi Arabia was paying WWE to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So, do they want to be in the UK, or did the UK pay for them to be there?
Did they pay? They might have paid. I would not be surprised if they paid.
Maybe.
The
Especially
WWE
if it becomes some sort of an annual thing.
Absolutely. The WWE UK event will happen on September the 3rd in Principality Stadium in Cardiff, Wales. So I don't know how far Cardiff is from like London or any part of England. probably a little ways away, but it was already reported that 59,000 people have applied for the pre-sale of that show. So I don't know how big the stadium is, but I would imagine that fills up a good portion of the stadium. That's WrestleMania size. So it's got to be a big event, right? Who's gonna be there? Maybe a newly debuting Gunther, who appeared this past Friday on SmackDown with his associate Ludwig, which is great. Formerly Marcel Bartel.
So only those two guys. They didn't bring the Imperium with them. It's just
they didn't bring. I'm blanking on his name already. I already forgot.
But they only brought one of them, right? Is that what it?
Correct. Looks like Marcel and who's now going by Ludwig, and Gunther. So I don't know.
I mean, so it's cool. You got them on the show. Hopefully, you do something with them.
They're wearing red as well, not just.
Were they always wearing red?
They were always.
Or were they wearing black?
Just like black. They were wearing bright red.
Well, they're on Raw now, pal.
They're on SmackDown.
They're on SmackDown. Were they on Raw?
No.
I swear they were trending like on Monday. No. Maybe that was Friday. I don't know.
They're needle movers.
The days over together.
I don't know. Speaking of needle movers, you have the numbers, right?
Yeah, I do. I happen to have some numbers. For AEW, the April 8th episode of Rampage had apparently even 600,000 viewers. Your Dynamite episode for April 6th had 989,000, so just shy of that 1 million mark. NXT's April 12th show episode had 610,000, just edging out Rampage barely. And then you had Raw on April 4th with 2.1 million. That is your back. Well, that's the return of Cody Rhodes, and this is the match after WrestleMania. This is the Raw after WrestleMania, which makes sense because they're usually in that 12. What is it? 12.
They're 18. Like 18.
Are they usually in the 18?
16, 1.6.
Something like that. Yeah.
1.6, 1.8.
And then you have SmackDown, of course, as always, leading the way with 2.2 million for the April 8th episode. That's Roman Reigns. That's just Roman Reigns.
It's because he's a needle mover.
That's what he calls it. That's what he says. He moves the needle. I don't know what needle, but.
Speaking of Roman Reigns and acknowledging him, Roman Reigns made a cameo on a little show called Young Rock.
Yeah, did you know this or because I sent it to you?
I did see that. Okay. You just sent it to me. But apparently in this past week's episode of Young Rock, of course, it tells the story of Dwayne Johnson's rise in to superstardom. He and his family were watching
Yokozuna and somebody.
They were watching, somebody there, and we had a little Roman Reigns trying to wrestle The Rock, which led, of course, social media to go wild, saying, "Oh, they're teasing the WrestleMania 39 match." You even had Roman say, "Acknowledge me," which is great.
Yeah, and then they had, if we were to wrestle, it had to be a WrestleMania kind of deal.
Yes. So,
and The Rock's aware. The Rock's doing the voiceover for the show, and he said, he gave the credentials of Roman Reigns on the segment, of that show.
They put the little piece they do on wrestling show.
Like the tail of the tape?
The tail of the tape.
Like the resume, right? Is that what you're talking
about?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They gave the whole resume. Rock's doing the voiceover. It's like, it's not it's there.
That's
like,
it's happening, right?
It's a thought. Right now, it's a thought. Like, it's always kind of been a thought, but it's kind of like.
Is this a match happening in Cardiff, Wales this September?
No, it's going to happen at WrestleMania in LA if it is going to happen. And speaking of that, we did get the dates that kind of came along.
When is this potential WrestleMania main event happening?
So we were supposed to have WrestleMania in LA. What was it, last year? And we didn't get that, so we had to wait 2 years. And so now we're going to be getting back here on track in 2023, and it's supposed to be April 1st and April 2nd is when we're supposed to get the 2 days of WrestleMania. I believe that's WrestleMania 39. Not sure how I'm feeling about WrestleMania happening on April 1st. I personally am not a fan of April Fool's Day, and I don't want.
Why not? You're a fool. It's your day.
Nope, don't like it. As a journalist and a man with journalism ethics and integrity and the 3 eyes that Kurt Angle talks about, yes, we don't like April Fool's Day and all the shenanigans that happen on social media. And yes,
I think I just concussed myself. I hit the back of my head on my wall, laughing, saying you're credible journalist.
But anyways. I'm the fool. Okay, buddy.
Aren't you going to Coachella this weekend?
I'm going to Coachella. It should be fun. Are there any wrestling ties to Coachella?
Billie Eilish is going to be there, and one of her songs was one of the theme songs for NXT TakeOver.
I don't think I knew this. Okay, well there you go. You found one.
Facts. There you go.
And Harry Styles.
Harry
Is he ever a
Styles,
wrestler or do anything?
The
The Weeknd's probably done some songs, I think, for
the last 3 WrestleManias have been the Weeknd songs.
Yeah.
He's basically the new Flow Rider.
He's a new Flow Rider, yes.
Basically. So there's that. Who else do we got there?
That's
I don't really
it.
know most of it. I know a couple of people, but
you might get a wrestler that pops up there. You never know. We'll see.
Sasha Banks is probably gonna show up. She likes to do that kind of stuff.
Somebody, yeah. Anyways, yeah, so I'll be at Coachella. Should be fun. Make sure you follow me on Twitter for all that good stuff at JHW Reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, what else do we have to talk about, Rob or Ethan? Rob's in the chat talking about how the Undertaker supposedly wants Bray Wyatt back in the WWE.
I saw that headline somewhere.
Where was that at?
I don't know. I saw it. A few places reported it. So, I mean, is he needed? No, not really.
No. I mean, it was kind of interesting going back to, we talked about Randy Orton in the first segment. Randy Orton mentioned Bray Wyatt and said, he's an intelligent dude, just that last kind of series of matches that they had there kind of didn't really do well for either one of those guys, I guess, kind of coming out of it. It was kind of all over the place. So Randy Orton acknowledged that and still thinks highly of Bray Wyatt. Let's see what else Rob's talking about. He says Taker will have a podcast, so will Road Dogg. Okay.
I heard the potential of Taker having a podcast, and yeah, Road Dogg I think was promoting something. So, I mean, everyone has a podcast. They try to copy us. We've been doing it for what, 6 years going on?
The thing with Undertaker is it's almost, considering how many interviews and stuff he's done recently, I think he would be good for a podcast, and he's met so many people and he has so many interesting stories. Imagine being the Undertaker and all the stories you can tell of like just celebrities and stuff being scared of you or wanting to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many interesting things that over his career. I mean, so many road stories between him, Yokozuna, and everybody else. Like there's just so many fun. Him and Godfather. Like there's just so many cool things. That would make for a great podcast. And I'm sure he'd have a good variety of guests even outside of the wrestling world as well. So definitely excited about that if that does happen. But yeah. What now? What is Rob talking about? Woods names new wrestling move. Xavier Woods. Okay.
The
backwoods. Okay, fair enough.
Of course he does. Speaking more of this podcast, WrestleVotes did tweet out 2 days ago in a similar show similar to that of Broken Skull Sessions.
Yeah,
Peacock and WWE have convinced the Undertaker to enter the podcasting world.
Yeah, so if it's gonna be on that,
it makes sense.
And you had a test run when you had the Undertaker and Stone Cold on a podcast earlier, many years ago, last year.
It's been a couple of years now.
Has it?
I believe so. This happened like during the pandemic, is when he was promoting the last ride. So been a couple of years before his retirement. So
Yeah, Rob actually mentions that has another good point there that Scott Hall was buried and laid to rest recently.
He was.
And
There was a photo of his son Cody along with the remaining members of the clique. We had Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels, Triple H,
Shawn
and
Waltman.
Sean Waltman, as well as DDP in that photo. So, yeah, I mean, very unfortunate. We spent time talking about Scott Hall a few weeks back when it happened. So, yeah.
And jumping over real quick to something I kind of teased a little bit earlier. I mentioned Edge when we talked about Randy Orton. Kind of interesting to see what they're doing now. And we kind of talked about it again last week with the WrestleMania episode with Damian Priest and Edge. And I don't know how much we talked about it. I remember you mentioned it on the show, but I don't think you ever really gave me a name. But you kind of mentioned that there might be someone else to this, making this a faction or something along those lines. And I don't know if you gave a name, but it was either saw an article after or something, but it made total sense. Given that Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan appear to kind of be on the outs in a way, that it looks like there's going to be some tension there. I can very easily see Rhea Ripley fitting right in with Edge and Damian Priest, and which, as I was explaining that to my brother, also made sense because of I think when Rhea Ripley earlier this year or sometime last year got her bag stolen, I believe she used some of Damian Priest's gear while she was waiting to get some gear shipped in. So, they already kind of wear the same sort of attire. I thought it was kind of interesting what they had with Damian Priest with the lighting and stuff. They did some stuff with him during Raw. What do you think about someone like a Rhea Ripley maybe joining that kind of faction or team there?
I mean, I think it makes sense. As you mentioned, the aesthetic is already there. You get some younger superstars to benefit from Edge kind of leading this new group, whatever they're going to be called. I'm very intrigued. You got to give this group a name at some point.
You got to give it a name. I don't know if they go with like the Brood 2.0 or something. That'd be kind of weird.
They did the new Brood already, so yeah, I don't know if I see that, but I just think it makes all the sense in the world. I don't see why they wouldn't do it. I again have not watched Monday Night Raw, but I heard that the lighting, they did something with the lighting with Damian Priest. They did. Did he disappear or something?
No, I don't know. I didn't catch him disappearing, but he did something very Undertaker-ish. You know how he kind of drops to a knee and does the hand thing. It wasn't necessarily that, but it was something along those lines. And I think they're kind of playing up a evil laugh on the loudspeaker or something, or on the.
I don't know if they need to go supernatural with this thing. But I mean, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Again, once they add Rhea Ripley, maybe another person. I don't know how many people they plan on having on this group. I'm sure it'll continue to develop and they'll evolve as a whole. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this potentially happening in the next few weeks.
I think it has like all the potential if it goes right. And I mean, maybe there's someone else they can add. I mean, heck, maybe you could even add someone like a Finn Balor. I don't necessarily think they'll do that, but he would probably be a guy who would fit in with whatever they're trying to do there. But I just think about maybe not Finn Balor, but like you can definitely, there's some evolution.
I think Finn Balor is about to lose to I was going to say Austin Theory, but Austin Theory lost his first name, so that was just
apparently
Theory. Balor's defending that title against Theory.
Yeah,
I don't think it's looking good for Balor, the way he's been booked lately. But I think might have to align himself with AJ. He does have history there with Damian Priest. They kind of just dropped that story.
Yeah, they did kind of sudden,
they just kind of dropped it. And it makes sense. There's obviously history with AJ and Finn being former leaders of the Bullet Club, as well as Finn kind of having a little history with Damian Priest. And then I know Edge has been a huge Finn Balor fan. So I would not be surprised if he would want, to go toe-to-toe with him and have this kind of feud. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this kind of maybe potential faction versus faction if they're able to get a few more people on each side. So
Yep, definitely. And again, I just think there's evolution potential there where you can you can kind of build some guys up in this process, right? Get the rub off of Edge and really have something to kind of cement that kind of foundation for him. I mean, a lot of them are off to a good start, like a Rhea Ripley, Damian Priest, but working with Edge can kind of get you to that next level. And I think it would be kind of great for them, and they'll learn so much stuff from him, right? Like just there's just so much you can learn from a guy like Edge.
Hey, when we return, we're going to talk more WWE. I mentioned some AEW stuff. I got to talk a little bit about NXT. And anything else we can find on the interwebs. We'll be right back with episode 190 of Beyond the Ropes. We are 22us Radio. 22us Radio is 22usmedia.com and 88.1 FM, KKJZ HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome back to episode 190 of Beyond the Ropes. I am your host, Ethan, joined alongside the analyst, James Williams, and producer, Rob Flores. You can find us over on Anchor, as well as YouTube. Just search up Beyond the Ropes and you'll see our beautiful faces there. At Real BTR Radio on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at EthanHamry95. You can find James on Twitter at
JHW Reporter.
And you can find Rob on Twitter at
Rob Flores Media. And don't forget the R2 the end for Ethan.
And I'm acknowledging his tribal chief right there on display. He just disappeared.
Oh, I was like, ooh.
Not our truth, no.
I was like, what?
No. But he fell in line, just like you, sir, should, sir. Because he unified the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship.
Apparently, not officially. There's not one title.
He's still got both titles. It's one undisputed championship.
He's undisputed, yes.
But he wants to do more than that. He's not satisfied. He's a guy with goals. He just wants goals after goals. And I can appreciate that. That's why he's my tribal chief.
And he set the bar, or I guess he set the bar high, or expectations for what the Usos apparently seem to be getting ready to do here next. If you kind of read into what they did.
Well, he did say on last Friday night on SmackDown, he said he sent the Usos over to Monday Night Raw. He says, go get those titles. So they are chasing those titles now. Looks like we might be seeing more gold come to the bloodline potentially. They just took on the Street Profits and they came up with the victory. And they might be those new number one contenders for those titles.
And then, I mean, they were holding up the titles there at the end after RK Bro defended the titles and beat the Street Profits on Raw. But now it's kind of like, are they really going to unify the titles? And if so, I mean, we're already seeing some of that with Roman and those titles. So where are we going with, the Women's Championship? Where are we going with, some of these other things? And it makes me just kind of curious. How are they going to make this work with two shows on two different networks and trying to make both of those companies happy by just having one champion, I guess?
I think you can unify the tag titles. They have the women's tag titles, just one.
Yeah.
One go show up on each brand. I would not be surprised if they just ununify the world titles at some point. I don't see that being a permanent thing. I'm not saying Roman's going to lose it, but
it's like, that's what I'm saying. But if he doesn't lose it, then what's the point? Like they unified it, or not unified it, but he's undisputed. So he'd have to lose one, because it's not like he's just gonna put one title on the line at any given time, I would think. Like, how do you make that make sense without him losing? And giving that belt away? He's not just going to give the belt away, or what was the whole point of beating Brock for it at WrestleMania?
I guess you're right. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, they'll come up with something. I think the only thing with the unification stuff, not that titles could mean something a whole lot sometimes in recent days, but it's just kind of like you're going to be asking the WWE creative to be more creative with their storylines. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
I mean, they got Drake Maverick. He's running the creative team over on Raw now. I think he's got it.
Is he in charge of the whole thing? Is that what you're saying?
No,
But
but
he's a member of it. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
he's involved apparently. So,
But
we'll see.
But there's some other guys apparently getting involved. You're going to try out. It sounds like Curtis
oh my
Axel.
God.
I'm not sure what he's going by, but Curtis Axel, the son of McGillicuddy. Yeah, was it Michael McGillicuddy, the son of Mr. Perfect? Apparently did a tryout as a producer.
Joe Hennig,
that is
actual,
correct.
His actual name.
And he did the Naomi Liv Morgan match, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Put what did he
Liv
put?
Morgan
Naomi
Sasha Banks match that was popular
because Naomi was on
the Raw episode. Yeah,
that's right. So it was Sasha and Liv, and then didn't Liv get the upset?
She got the victory, and it was a lot of people I saw in the comments saying it was a very good match. Behind on SmackDown as well.
I caught some of that, and I thought it was pretty well. And I didn't know that Joe Hennig was doing that match, but it was just kind of interesting to see. I took away from the match. Oh, they put Liv over there. Interesting. Over Sasha. And then also, now what does this mean for her? Because she was kind of out there by herself without Rhea Ripley. We mentioned that earlier, and maybe there's a little tension there. What does that do for them getting a win over the tag team champion? Considering that there is maybe some tension there between Liv and Rhea. So,
well, Naomi, I believe, beat Liv Morgan this past Monday night on Raw.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, we are expected to get. I believe the tag title match was supposed to happen this past week. Didn't happen for whatever reason. They changed a couple things on Raw. We mentioned the Mysterio thing it was supposed to be Rey versus Veer. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
Did we ever find? Was there ever a reason or explained, or did it just?
No, not from what I saw. And I mean, I just the part I did see was
I just saw the GIF.
was just Veer put some sort of submission on Dominic 3 different times, and they had to wheel Dominic out on a stretcher. So Dominic's down bad. Not sure where they go from there, but at least they're making. I mean, at least they're making Veer look strong, considering how many vignettes and everything else they did for him. Just kind of, introduce him and put him out there. There's so much of a weight; it was starting to become a joke on whether or not he was actually going to show.
He came all over Raw, all over Rey Mysterio last week, all over Dominic Mysterio this week. Just came everywhere, nonstop.
That's crazy. Oh, Lazy's in the WWE finally.
You know who hasn't showed up yet? Who I want to see on my TV every week? Say it with me, James. L.A. Knight. Speculation was that he was supposed to be called up. We did get a few names that we mentioned. Gunther, along with Ludwig Kaiser, was his new name, formerly Marcel Barthel. Raquel Rodriguez, no longer Raquel Gonzalez. Her name got changed.
Now, wasn't she the singles? No, that's Mandy Rose. But was she in the tag team? Didn't they win the tag title?
She was in a tag title match at
Didn't
TakeOver. They won the titles for her and then lost them. I think Vince saw a glimpse at her and then said, I'm just going to have you go back and we're going to give the titles back to Toxic Attraction.
Yeah. Huh.
And then, of course, Dakota Kai failing to capture the championship against the beautiful, the gorgeous Mandy Rose of Toxic Attraction, the fighting champion, saying she defended her title now twice in 2 weeks. And you're saying over here, you've been mocking her for months, saying she's not a fighting champion.
Because she's probably had only those 2 matches in months.
She's had multiple title defenses.
Sure. She looks great.
She looks phenomenal. Carrying the women's division on her back.
Okay. Speaking of the women's division in NXT.
Over here, Natalia trying to bury that women's division.
Well, hey, look, Mandy Rose is bringing
What was
things
Natalia
down.
doing over there in NXT?
They were
anyways?
Mandy Rose was bringing the division down. They had to bring in a veteran, someone who knew what they were doing, and someone who could set that division straight. So who do you turn to? None other than Natalia. You get her in there, and yeah, you weren't happy with Natalia's actions.
I don't know why she was there. I saw the clip. It was funny. I laughed.
I mean,
she was burying
so.
Cora Jade. She brought her up and then just to bury her at the end.
I mean,
I'm not saying it was an actual burial, but
no, right.
It was just a nice little moment there. She put her in a submission. What's it called? The Brett move. What's it called? Yeah, that move.
Shooter. Yeah, best move ever. No, but
when the Rock
but we've seen kind of what they've done with Ziggler and some other guys. Didn't Braun Breaker get called up, or he had a match, or didn't he? Or was that just him defending the title?
He defended the title against who did he defend the title?
Well,
he defeated Gunther last week.
Did
he
Braun
defeated? Yeah.
Wait, well, Braun and Ziggler were on for the NXT title, weren't they?
On Raw, and then on NXT the next day, I believe Gunther challenged him, and he lost.
Yeah, but Braun's not the champion, is he?
Braun is the champion. He won the title back last week on Raw after Mania.
Oh, he won it on Raw after Mania. Okay, that's right. Because I remember saying, why would he win the title on Raw? And now, because it was kind of like he's on Raw, but then you're just, I don't know.
As I said,
did they ever find out what happened to Rich Steiner?
No, he's still kidnapped. Joe Gacy still has him locked. It's not okay.
I mean, they should probably call the cops on
just
that.
Wild. I mean, the parking lot's dangerous.
Well, they did say it was getting edgy.
Nikita Lyons was brutally attacked by.
I saw that kick. Yes, that was great.
Might be the best feud just by watching the GIFs. It might be the best feud in
we know
all of NXT and NXT history. Honestly,
I've not seen a whole lot of them kind of wrestling or anything, but they're definitely.
I don't know. Last Legend, Nikita Lyons, WrestleMania main event in 2 years. Why not?
Why not? You sign them up.
WrestleMania 40. Why not?
But I think, there's a lot of good stuff going on all over the place. Did we mention it briefly? Samoa Joe returning to AEW, and I believe Rob said that he had won a title already.
He put down a 73-year-old man in Minoru Suzuki for the Ring of Honor Television Championship.
That's how old he is?
No, but he looks 73. And then Jay Lethal and newly Great Khali, as people are calling him on Twitter.
I heard something about he was trending, but it wasn't really Khali, right?
No.
Okay, so the Punjabi prison match is not coming back?
Unfortunately, James, no. Your favorite match is not coming back.
I tried.
You did.
I'm trying to think what else. I feel like there's maybe a debut or someone we're missing, no? So we haven't talked about Ezekiel.
You got a picture? Well, we didn't talk about Ezekiel last week, did we?
No, but I think we kind of teased it and we never got to it, I think. Because we just stuck to WrestleMania.
Elias's younger brother, Ezekiel, made his debut. He's the future right there. That's all I got to say. He interrupted Kevin Owens. He said, Elias's younger brother. Owens didn't believe him.
He didn't believe him at all. He didn't believe him at all.
I don't know. Maybe it was too many stunners or,
He did that. He was coming off of a long night. Yeah.
He was coming off of a long weekend. It wasn't easy for Kevin Owens.
Yep.
This past week, however, we got proof that he does have a relationship or brother. There's a picture out there
of both of them together, right? I think I saw this.
And Ezekiel.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Owens asked his best friend, Sami Zayn, about the conspiracy. Sami Zayn explained the conspiracy that's been going on. It's great stuff. And then there was also apparently a photo of Sami Zayn and El Generico together as well. So, I don't know.
Yeah, just For me, kind of interesting that they waited that long, and all we got out of
gone for the last time we saw him was like 8 months ago or something.
Yeah,
For
and the best they did was
videos where they killed off Elias. He died. R.I.P.
And all they did was shave his head, shave his face, and send him back out there.
I hope.
Looks like Damien Sandow.
I hope LA Knight's on SmackDown.
Yeah, something has to happen. But yeah, it was just a little disappointing to see what. Maybe it turned into a great gimmick. I don't know. It just kind of looked very Damien Sandow-ish, especially considering the time that they had off.
He looked like LA Knight. He looked like Damien Sandow. He looked like a couple different people. Speaking of someone who didn't look like herself last week, Bianca Belair had that black eye. I think her eye is doing better.
You know what? I mentioned, guys, during the break that I had rewatched some of WrestleMania, so I caught some of the Bianca Belair and Becky. Like I watched it again, I think for like the third or fourth time now, and I didn't realize that after she was holding up the belt, that even then her eye was swollen. Like you didn't realize at the time how swollen it was already starting to get. Then it made all the sense when I saw it on Raw how beat up that eye was and how swollen and bruised it was. But it's just how it goes. But I didn't get to catch it this Monday. I didn't see how the eye was progressing, but it was looking pretty bad on the Raw after WrestleMania. She did get a new challenger. Yep.
Sonya Deville.
Sonya Deville, yeah, Sonya Deville hyped it up, had her out there, made Belair sign a contract before knowing the opponent, gassed it up as if, oh, here comes your opponent, someone who said a few months ago that they were going to come back and try and make a run for the title, made the return, yada, yada, yada. And then Belair is looking and waiting, turns her back, and then you get Sonya kind of kicking her behind the leg, more or less, and taking her down, signing the contract. And yeah, it was just kind of interesting how that's going to happen. Does that mean she's no longer going to be an authority figure? We're just going to kind of see what she was doing with Naomi. We'll see what happens with Sonya Deville. Real quick, as we kind of wrap things up here, there was at least 2 weddings I was aware of. I think that happened in the days after WrestleMania. One of them was Alexa Bliss getting married to a singer. I'm blanking on the name at the moment. It wasn't someone I was familiar with.
Ryan Cabrera.
Do you know where he's from?
I want to say he was in American Idol at one point.
He was in what?
American Idol.
Oh, American Idol. Maybe. Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with the guy, but I think he was verified on Twitter or something. And wishing them the best of luck. The other one being Corey Graves and Carmella. Obviously, they've been playing that up a lot in the storyline. And I think even acknowledging a few times that they were getting married. So to see them kind of get that taken care of, that was like within a day or two after WrestleMania, I think. And then there were some pictures floating around of some of the people who were there. Bailey was there and whatnot. Renee Young was there, and Dean Ambrose was there. Everyone was all dressed up fairly nicely. Had their, what you would expect to see at a wedding, except for Dean Ambrose. He had his jeans. He had a regular T-shirt. I think he had a leather jacket. He had a fanny pack. No confirmation on what was going on in the fanny pack, but yeah, Dean Ambrose was there and chilling. So kind of interesting to see some of the AEW and WWE guys kind of mingling there. But yeah, congratulations to Corey and Carmella, and then to Alexa Bliss and who? Ryan Cabrera. So yeah,
NSYNC performed for Alexa Bliss. At least 3 members, because she's friends with them. Yeah.
She's friends with them. I didn't know that. Okay, good deal. I didn't know that. I didn't see that clip or anything. So that's interesting. And then Rob saying in the chat, WWE's Khan said Peacock is a 5-year deal. Okay, I didn't hear about that. Interesting. Yeah, as we kind of wrap the show here, Pat McAfee, I think, did a number of different interviews. I think Kofi was another one of those interviews. I still got to kind of watch some of those, but that's some good stuff I would recommend you watch. And then the WWE Evil series on Peacock. Go ahead, Ethan.
All right, let's wrap it up. I don't know. We've got some exciting stuff coming up regarding, we got Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. the visionary Seth Rollins, Drip God looking good. Maybe we'll see LA Knight. Say it with me, James. LA Knight make his debut soon. But until next time, this episode of Beyond the Ropes has been absolutely too sweet.
Too sweet.